Welcome, other students. I'm Ifat, and sorry. Today, I'm going to discuss about a development theory that is called Piaget's cognitive development theory. In our last class, we already know about what is ethics, a moral value. So we just acquire a basic idea about all of that three topics. Now we will read about a development theory that actually help us to more moral or how we behave from our childhood to adulthood. Okay, so first of all, we have to know who was Piaget actually. So, if you think about that, who is Piaget? He was a Swiss psychologist. He is most famously known for his theory of cognitive development that actually discuss about how children develop intellectually throughout the course of childhood. And prior to Piaget's theory, children were often thought of simply as mini adults. But after the study, actually people now know, or we can now understand that there is intellectual development difference from infancy to childhood. So what is actually theory of cognitive development? While studying his children, Piaget developed theories concerning that how children actually learn. So the base of his theory was how children learn from infancy to adult, and he divided his development theory into 4 stages. So, if you want to know more about Piaget, then you go for that. There is a film on Piaget Davidson. So, if you go for that, you can know the life history of this scientist. So, first of all, stage one, as Piaget divided the whole cognitive development from infancy to adult into 4 stages. First stage is sensory motor stage. So, what happened in this stage? In this period, actually, intelligence is demonstrated through motor activity without the use of symbols. So, what is motor activity actually? In that, actually, the knowledge of the world is limited, okay, but it is based on different physical interactions, and some symbolic abilities are developed at the end of this stage. And the major characteristics of these stages actually, the infant knows the world through their movement and sensations, and these stages continue from infancy to age 2. Okay, so till 2 years this stage continue, and in that stage infant knows the world through their movement and sensations, and children learn about the world through basic actions such as sucking, grasping, looking, and listening. Infants learn that things continue to exist even though they cannot be seen, the object or any materials. They are separate beings from the people and objects around them. They are separate, that is a people and that is the objects. That's it. Without that, actually, they cannot think anything else. They realize that their actions can cause things to happen in the world around them. So they just touch anything, and they want to make other people understand that that is soil, or that is fire, that is a food, like that. With their sensitive or sensation, we understand about their activity, and we know that how just infant or the children actually want to communicate with us. So that is the sensory motor stage. Then again, stage 2, this period is called pre-operational stage. This stage actually started from years 2 and ended in year 7. And in this stage, child begins to develop to represent objects with images and words, and their language skills also increase actually. Their imagination also increase, and during this period children are thinking at a symbolic level but are not yet using cognitive operations. Okay, they're just using different symbol. They want to talk with other peoples. And major characteristics of that stage is children begin to think symbolically and learn to use words and pictures to represent objects. Then children of that stage also is egocentric and struggling to see things from the perspective of others. Okay, in that stage we can easily understand the children that that is good and that is bad. And while they are getting better with language and thinking, they still tend to think about things in very concrete terms. And at this stage, kids actually learn to pretend play, but still struggle with logic and taking the point of view of other people. We can make them easily understand, or they just usually listen to us at this stage because uh, they cannot think properly, or they cannot know that that is good for them or that is bad for them. So that is called pre-operational stage. And they also often struggle with understanding the idea of consistency. For example, a researcher might take a lump of clay, divide into two equal pieces, and then give a child the choice between two pieces, which one he want to take. And one piece of clay is rolled into compact ball, while the other is smashed into a flat pancake shape. And since the flat shape looks larger, usually a child just choose that because they don't understand that the two clay are exactly the same size. So they cannot think about that. Actually, they just choose the things as which one is larger and which one is smaller. And at the end of this stage, people the child actually think about that what is actually they think that that is a objective manner, and we can take it like the example with the shapes of the clay. They can choose the bigger one without knowing that the two clays are actually same size or same materials. Then our third one, that is concrete operational stage. This stage actually started from 7 and ended at 12. And this stage, Piaget actually considered this stage as a major turning point at the child's cognitive development because it marks the beginning of logical or operational thought. And major characteristics of that developmental change is during this stage, children begin to thinking logically about concrete events. Now they are just started to think logically, and they begin to understand the concept of conservation, that the amount of liquid in a short white cup is equal to that in a tall skinny glass. Okay, for example, their thinking becomes more logical and organized, but still very concrete. They now understand that uh, the glass can be different, but the liquid will be the same amount, the quantity will be same. Now they start to understand that. Okay, but their thinking is becomes more logical and organized, but not so much concrete. They cannot take any solid decisions. And children begin using inductive logic or reasoning from specific information to a general principle. They just want to collect, or they want to listen other people that what they want to do. And this means that child can work things out internally in their head rather than physically try things out in the real world. They don't understand what happened in the real world. They just internally think that it can be happen. And children begin thinking in a formal systematic way. Actually they cannot think fully systematic way. They start to begin that it can be a systematic things, or we can do it fast so we can get a solution, but they cannot just get their solution, or they cannot solve any puzzle. They just started to solve that, may can I solve that puzzle, but after solving that puzzle, what happened, what will be the result, they cannot take that concrete decision. So during this stage, children also becomes less egocentric and begin to think about how the people think about him or her or other decisions. And kids in the concrete operational stage also begin to understand that their thoughts are unique to them. There is no need to explain others about their own thoughts. Okay, so at that time, actually, their personality is started to create. Then our last stage, that is formal operational stage. From that age 11 to 15, you can also say that to adult. And the formal operational stage begins at approximately age 11 and lasts into adulthood. And the major characteristics of that stage is adolescent or young adult begins to think abstractly and reason about hypothetical problems. That means now they are very much confident that we can solve our problem, and they can create, or they can experiment with different kinds of materials, and they can get their solution. And teen also begins to think more about moral, philosophical, ethical, social, or political issues. That can be theoretical, or that is actually abstract things, or we can prepare a principle from that. And my view is now different from others, or I have another concrete thought that I don't need to take another thought of any other person. Okay, now my view is clear, my vision is clear, now I can create my own principles and begin to use deductive logic or reasoning from a general principle to specific information. That means till now there are lots of information, but there is no conclusion. But in this stage, actually the adulthood or young adults or the adolescent can give a conclusion of their thought. And in that stage, she can do mathematical calculation, think creatively, use abstract reasoning, and imagine the outcome of the particular actions. And this is the final stage of Piaget's theory, that increase the logic and ability to use different kinds of reasoning. And at the end of this, people become capable of seeing multiple options. Actually, that means I can be successful with that experiment with 4 or 5 ways. Now he just confident, and she is more capable to take any decisions. So that is our formal operational stage. So that was actually our 4 stage. In our stage 1, that is sensorimotor stage. In that stage, actually, we just think about that is up to 2 years with the different reflexes. Actually, we know about how child is growth. And pre-operational stage. And in that pre-operational stage, actually, we know that the age actually 2 to 7, and in that stage actually they listen to others. And in case of stage 3, that is a concrete operational stage. In that stage they just start to think logically, but they cannot take any decisions. But in case of stage 4, now they have their own vision, they can take any decision, or they can give or create their own principles. So by that way, from the infancy to adolescent or to adult, our cognitive development is developed according to Piaget. And in theory of that conclusion, that will be that Piaget did not view children's intellectual development actually as a quantitative process. Okay, he never thought that it's a quantitative process, rather than he thought that it is a qualitative change in behavior that is gradually happen in 4 stages, from the age 7 to from the age 2 to our 15 or 18. Okay. And based on his observation, he concluded that children were not less intelligent than adults. Actually, they simply think differently. And Piaget, that stages theory, described the cognitive development of children with the when they go for adulthood. Okay. And in Piaget's view, early cognitive development involved process based upon actions actually, and later progress to change in mental operation. Then first one was actions with different activity, and later is for mental operations. So that's for today. I think now you are more clear about the Piaget development theory. So we'll discuss about in our discussion class. Thank you.